I made a video over a little while back talking about the poser situation for the Resident Evil community, but I think it's best to back it up for beginners on what game they could possibly start off with, specifically for their first Resident Evil adventure. If you're new and need some suggestions, then here's a list of titles I'd recommend for your first time RE experience. Don't worry though, the list will be featuring both classic and modern titles for you to choose from. So if you're not looking for something dating back to the mid-90s or the early 2000s, then you have a few games from the more modern RE Engine era to balance it all out. Before we start though, no matter what, do not listen to the extremely toxic gatekeeping fans who want to spoil your fun with their own self-imposed playstyles. Don't let them dictate what difficulty you should play on, if you're a completionist or not, and or call you a fake fan for liking the more modern RE games. It doesn't matter the version you play or the title you play, the characters you like, the stories you like, the gameplay style you prefer. This is your enjoyment, not theirs. They had their moment to shine. Don't let them bring you down or ruin your moment either. So with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in with these games. The first game I'd recommend if you're completely okay with starting from the very beginning of the franchise is of course the original Resident Evil from 1996. Compared to other titles, it's one of the more basic games to play as a beginner-friendly experience. Being a classic entry, you do have to deal with tank controls and the fixed camera angles that the game goes with, which are really not that difficult to become accustomed to with practice. In RE1, you follow STARS members Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, Albert Wesker, and more into the dangerous Spencer Mansion filled with traps and bioweapons. You can play as either Jill or Chris, who have unique character features, such as Jill having a lockpick with more inventory space, while Chris has a lighter with less inventory space. On top of that, Jill is more squishy as Chris is more durable. These features offer more replayability upon playing through both campaigns. In addition, there are multiple endings that are affected by choices you make throughout the story, which is pretty cool for the time. Since it is the start of the series, there will be nothing too complex or in-depth for you to overcome compared to much later installments. In fact, I consider this game to be one of the easier ones to beat. You'll for sure have a charming experience because not only is it the humble beginning of Resident Evil, but it has the most legendary voice acting in any video game ever.
Barry!
Jill, what's going on? Any clues?
No, but something's wrong with this house.
Whoa, this hall is dangerous. Maybe it's better to secure our escape route first. There must be a back door somewhere. Let's try to find it first, shall we?
Okay, let's separate again.
Just a moment. I found something.
What is it?
It's a weapon. It's really powerful, especially against living things. Better take it with you.
But how about you, Barry?
I have this.
Thank you. I'll take this then.
Seriously, truly game-changing stuff. Overall, you can play Resident Evil 1996 on Steam, GOG.com, and the Director's Cut version on the PlayStation Store. As if Sony needs more digital purchases. Just saying. Okay, now for the next game, which is Resident Evil 1, but better. Yes, we're talking Resident Evil Remake from 2002. If you're not a fan of the older visuals or the tank controls, then play the remake itself. Specifically, the 2015 remaster version for the analog controls. Funny enough, people often mistake the 2015 remaster to be the remake, but that's simply not true since it dates back to 2002. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, I am so sorry. So if you were to ask me what game best represents survival horror, or even Resident Evil for that matter, you're looking at it right here. It's the same as the original but further enhanced in its graphical quality, voice acting, atmosphere, and the soundtrack. There are even some improvements over the original title certain areas that were kind of flawed in design. It's well appreciated here. There are even new spookier additions for players, but I'll hold off for the sake of your potential blind experience. Honestly, I want to say more, except it's been praised to the high heavens above on how amazing it is. Really, one of the all-time best Resident Evil games to be experienced. Unlike the original classic trilogy, it's widely available on multiple platforms like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and Steam. Go right ahead and enter the survival horror. Now, on to the next and final entry of the recommended classics, which is the original Resident Evil 2 from 1998. If you need a little more bang for your survival horror experience, then Resident Evil 2 is perfect for you. You play as Chris Redfield's sister, Claire Redfield, and rookie officer, Leon S. Kennedy, who venture into Raccoon City. In RE2, you're given 2 scenarios to experience, known as the A-B scenarios. These scenarios can be played as Claire A, Leon B, or Leon A, Claire B. Completing the B scenario will complete the story, bringing both scenarios together for the conclusion. To spicing the scenarios up, there's a feature called the zapping system. If in the A scenario you pick up one of 2 items, if not both, or leave them be, then those items will either still be there, partially missing, and or completely missing for the B scenario character. The zapping system elevates RE2 as one of the more playable titles in the entire franchise. It's like RE1, except it ramps up the stakes some more for both protagonists, accompanied by cool supporting characters. Hideki Kamiya, who worked on Devil May Cry and Bayonetta later on, directed the game, so you know it's going to get kind of crazy and intense throughout, especially towards the finale. If RE1 is too basic, if not somewhat slow for your taste, RE2 is the way to go. Resident Evil 2 is available on Steam, GOG.com, and the PlayStation Store. Okay, since this is the end of the classic suggestions, it's time for the more modern entries. The next entry should be a nice follow-up to the recent suggestion for modern players. I'm talking about Resident Evil 2 Remake from 2019. RE2R may not be perfect with its somewhat poorly made B scenarios and lack of a zapping system. Seriously, that is such a missed opportunity. However, 7 years later, it's still one of the best RE titles to play. As some people are new to the series, RE2R is a very approachable game to sink some hours into for those newcomers. It's even very beginner friendly as a speedrun game as well. Like the original, you can play as Claire and Leon investigating the Raccoon City outbreak in a more horror-heavy way this time around. No longer are you using tank controls or looking around through fixed camera angles. Claire and Leon are controlled through a more modern third-person control scheme, and well, on top of that, you look around the world with an over-the-shoulder third-person perspective. Gunplay is of course affected by this change. It's more modernized while working amazingly well. You will for sure be tensing up on your journey through the RPD, which is only the beginning. Everything has been elevated for a more horror-driven direction to drive your anxiety through the roof. The zombies, the lickers, the Cerberus, and even the trenchcoat tyrant in the room, Mr. X, are far more intimidating than their 1998 counterpart. Things are not as light as they once were. If you think the OG was cranking it to 11, RE2R cranks it to 100 if not 1000. So go ahead and check it out. It's an S-tier RE title, that's for sure. Resident Evil 2 Remake can be played on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. Now, it's time for our last entry accompanied by another for its 2-part story. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard from 2017. By the way, this game will be hitting its 10th anniversary next year. That I should just maybe throw that in there. Resident Evil 7, or RE7, has you step into the shoes of Ethan Winters looking for his wife Mia, who had been missing for 3 years. He receives a message from beyond the grave and drives to Dovey, Louisiana to find her. And that's all I'll say story-wise, because if you're unaware what goes down in this game, then that's amazing. Do not spoil yourself on it. Go play it right now. It's by far debatably the scariest RE game to date, as well as accessible for newcomers. The turns the game takes, the insanity it throws at you, all of it is quite shocking. Although there are some criticisms that I have to sort of throw out there before you play RE7. If you don't like its honed-in first-person perspective, then you're best to play it on PC, so you can download the RE Framework mod to adjust the FOV to counter motion sickness. I thankfully don't experience this, but many do, even dating back to 2017 when it first released. Besides motion sickness, the only other main notable problems about RE7 are both the enemy variety being lackluster and its latter half being quite poor. It goes from an absolute 10 out of 10 to around a 7 out of 10 game, only to pick back up to an 8 out of 10. Personally, it's one of my all-time favorites since it was basically my first RE love, but I will not shy away from giving it its very well-deserved criticism. Setting aside my love, it's a solid horror game. It's scary, unsettling, atmospheric, and a fun time for the new players looking for more scares. On top of that, it has some pretty awesome DLC. When you purchase it, get the gold edition for the full experience. I mean, you do have some DLC made to tie up loose ends from the main story too. Thankfully, the DLC is quite a lot of fun. Overall, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is available on PlayStation, PlayStation VR, Xbox, and Steam. To stack onto the 7th entry, you have its direct sequel, Resident Evil 8 Village. You resume as Ethan Winters in that game 3 years later after the Dolby incident. This time, he's in a much stranger land, the Romanian mountains of Europe. It's more action horror because it's a combination of RE7 and RE4, however, it's a solid follow-up to the 7th installment. When you play Village, you can play it in first person, but now you can also play it in third person. For first person mode, if you need an FOV adjustment, you know what to do. I won't dive into Village's story or gameplay, but it's one hell of a roller coaster ride to experience, along with the story DLC, and RE7 and Village act as a duology. I think if you play RE7, then you have to play Village, for a more proper conclusion. Resident Evil 8 Village is available on PlayStation, PlayStation VR 2, Xbox, Nintendo Switch 2, and Steam. To wrap it all up, I hope these recommendations are super helpful for you. On the other hand, if you want to play something else, then knock yourself out. If it means you're having more fun, then hey, that's what matters. Also, I threw in the more horror-focused ones for the list because I think jumping into RE4, RE5, RE6, and even Requiem despite it being half horror is a little bit of a disservice to your first time experience in this franchise. So now, go have fun. Kill some zombies, eat some herbs, and survive the many horrors out there made by man. Enter the survival horror, and good luck. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and as always, I hope each and every one of you have a great and safe day. Thank you.